Yes, let's do it. Hi everyone, you are listening to Product Drama Podcast. This is Kate.
And this is Anatoly. Today our guest is Toby Johnson. Toby is product manager at ParkMobile, and I'm very excited about today's episode because Toby has definitely so many interesting things to share with us. Hi Toby.
Hey, how you doing?
Would you please introduce yourself and maybe share a little more of your professional experience?
Sure, yeah, I'll try to keep it short. My name is Toby Johnson. Currently, I'm a senior product manager at a company in Atlanta, Georgia, called ParkMobile. So we're a mobile parking app. In the U.S. anyway, parking is really frustrating and difficult. So we have a mobile app, and we just launched a new web experience where users can go and pay for parking. You don't have to stand in a long line. You don't have to touch a dirty keyboard. Just trying to make parking easier. Before that, I started in General Electric, GE. Mm-hmm. I started with predictive analytics on large-scale industrial equipment, so pumps, compressors, gas turbines, 10, 20, $30 million pieces of equipment, trying to predict failures, basically trying to prevent large scale power disruptions or offshore oil spills or things like that. And that was like kind of a technical job. And then I got interested in design and understanding how do we take all this massive data, we're talking thousands of sensors and hundreds of readings per second, some millisecond data. How do we take all this massive data and how do we visualize it in a way that people can consume that? So I got interested in design, and that is what brought me into product management. Because I was like, well, we have all these things that we can do. How do we market it? How do we build it? How do we sell it? How do we enhance on it iteratively? Things like that. From there, I went into a company called Sterling, which is the world's largest background screening company. And so, if you're going for a job application, you have to do a background check. They check your employment history to make sure you're not lying about that. They check your education to make sure you went to school where you wanted to go. And that was a replatforming. So we had like a dozen different legacy systems, and we had to understand how to take all these different systems and rebuild them. Not every single feature, but figure out what are the top 10 features that are really needed, and then rebuild a system with a microservice architecture and a thin client. All the legacy applications were thick clients. So did that. And then I decided that I really, really wanted to go into the consumer space. I wanted to make an impact on people, and, parking isn't like the biggest impact. It's not going to save the world if we make parking easier. But, there's three things that people consistently say that they hate in their lives. It's paying taxes, going to the dentist, and parking. Mm-hmm. So, that's pretty high up there. And so if we can take something that's really, really painful and difficult for people today and maybe not make it an enjoyable experience, but at least make it pleasant. I feel like that's a good win.
Definitely. But before we jump to the story about the parking, tell me one most important thing. Have you already tried Cyberpunk 2077?
Dude, I'm running on 3 hours of sleep right now. I booted it up. I booted it up at 12:01 a.m. This morning, and I played till about 6 in the morning. Got about 3 hours of sleep. Woke up, took a shower, wanted to get ready for you all, and then I just jumped off of the main mission to chat. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Pretty good. Nice. Okay, let's jump to the main topic of the discussion. Can you please tell a little bit more about the product?
I'll start with the mobile app. So the mobile app it's iOS and Android. Looks like that. It is if you think about kind of Google Maps, so we use Google Maps on Android and Apple Maps on iOS as the background. So you can see there, kind of you open it up and there's a map. There's no parking near me because I'm out in the suburbs. But if we went to downtown Atlanta, for example, you would see a bunch of different parking spots. And so the user can either type in the number. They'll see like a little sticker on the side on a metal sign, or maybe painted on the curb, that says their zone number. So you can see like, here's like a list of zone numbers, and then they can select the zone number. They can either enter it in or select it from the map. They can choose how long they want to park, maybe 2 hours, 3 hours, something like that. They're going to head and set their vehicle. So they're going to say, hey, I am driving this vehicle, because that's how tickets are given, right? Is some police officer is going to go up and say, okay, is license plate ABC123 supposed to be parked here? Like, is, have they paid to park here? And so you have to make sure your license plate is correct. And then, you go ahead and you proceed to check out. You see kind of a summary of your session, how long you're going to park, how you're going to pay for it, if it's Apple Pay or, Visa or whatever. And you start your parking session. The one thing that we find with a lot of user interviews that people love is we have an option to extend. So, people have always talked about, I got to go feed the meter. I put a bunch of quarters in, but I know that's going to end in 2 hours. So in 2 hours, you need to be back in my car, or I have to run out and I have to add more quarters right into the machine, or swipe my card again or whatever. So that's like really frustrating. And, if you're in an interview for a job, if you're at a dentist appointment, if you're on a date, like, you don't want to have to get up and be like, oh, sorry, I got to go feed the meter. Right. But then you're risking getting a ticket. So it's just a bad place. So what we can do is we'll send the user a reminder and we'll say, hey, you have 15 minutes left on your parking session. Do you need more time? And at that point, the user can extend their session, and they can say, oh, I need an extra 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, however long they need. And then it's just added on, and they can do it. It's really easy to look at your phone and say, oh, just give me 1 second. I got to add some time. Okay, great. I'm done. Now I'm back in my conversation. You're not leaving the area. So it's like a very seamless experience. That's by far like our number one, most popular feature that people absolutely love. And it's technically doing the same thing the meter does, but we're just doing it in a more technologically savvy way. It's easier for users. So I was for about 12 months, I was the product manager for the iOS and Android apps, which is what I just showed you there. That was the Android app. And then into that, we got a lot of feedback from users consistently saying, they don't want to download another app. They have a million apps on their phone. Why do I need to download an app to pay for parking? This is stupid. And so we realized there was a really big business case and a big opportunity around building a website that would basically do the core value proposition. Type in my zone number, say how long I want to park, pay for it, enter my vehicle, and then go back and extend if I need to. So if we could rebuild that, but on a website, just like a single page application, really easy to load, certain people where they're parking might be in a city where there's a lot of traffic, not car traffic, but cellular traffic. And they can't download an app. Like it's just not fast enough, but they can download a really lightweight website. Or they might be in a parking garage where they don't get good signal. So that was something that we thought we could do a lot better at. And cities were asking for it too. They said, hey, we don't want to force people to download an app. We're trying to get away from these meters, right? Especially with COVID, no one wants to touch the same thing that's even door handles, right? Like, so it's like, why would you want to touch a parking meter? So a lot of cities now are saying, hey, let's just get rid of them. Let's pull the meters out of the ground. We don't need them anymore. They cost us a lot of money. Let's just go to a mobile only solution. And even the meter companies have noticed this, and they're starting to make their own mobile apps. But the cities are saying, hey, we want to give people choice. We want to give them options. We don't want to force them to do one thing. And so we spent a few months building that. We just released that I think the press release went on Tuesday. We released that in our pilot city of Columbus, Ohio. So we are currently piloting it there. I haven't looked at the dashboard, but we're collecting lots of data, trying to analyze how are people using the new product. Are there issues with usability? We have kind of a hypothesis right now that people are probably going to get to the point where they have to create an account and they're gonna close, they're gonna exit. Because with the meter, you don't have to create an account. All you do is just punch in your license plate, swipe your card, you're good to go. So we have a hypothesis that people will be dropping off, and we'll see a lot of churn at that step. But we need the data to confirm that. Maybe we're wrong. But we're already planning next year.
I worked on a project where this was actually the case, because the app, it wasn't like a mobile app, but as soon as you install it and you launch it, it immediately asks you for creating an account, and people are dropping and massively dropping. And then we showed the value just a little bit, and we tried to engage user like, okay, you register, you get a little more of content, and if you sign up for like a paid account, you get even more content. So I wonder what the result will be for the app, for the pilot city.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really common issue, right? If you think about, like, go to your Apple keychain, your Google Chrome, or your LastPass, wherever you keep your passwords. Hopefully you're not using the same password for everything. But look at how many websites are stored, right? How many usernames and passwords you have stored. Nobody can possibly remember all of those. And so people are just sick of having to create an account. They just don't want to do it. So like right now, next year, Q1, we're planning on starting to build our guest checkout. So all you need to do is provide an email so that we know where to send you the receipt, because we assume you probably want the receipt. But we're trying to make it a little bit easier that way. We also launched an integration with Google. So there's a new Google Pay app that was released a couple weeks ago, and we are one of the 2 parking vendors that are built into that. It's us and one of our competitors. But we have a lot of cities, a lot of coverage in the U.S. And so, we're eventually trying to roll out and figure out how can we provide our service to people without forcing them into one specific product type, an app or a website, or give people more freedom of choice, and it inherently increases our market share. Right? Because if you provide people the ability to use whatever product, whatever digital medium they want to transact, you allow them to pay with however they want, Apple Pay, Google Pay, PayPal, right? Any of those third-party wallet solutions. And you give them a really nice, easy experience in all products. That's the only way that you can really maximize your revenue for a B2C product, is you just have to give people the freedom of choice and make it really, really easy for them to do what they want to do.
Can we talk a little more about the concept? How did you do the product management part for the this new actually platform, I should say?
Yeah, and to be fair, it's not just me. I want to make sure to give credit to where credit's due. And the concept of the platform is something that was already being worked on and being kind of scoped and developed when I came into the company. And that was, we've got a fantastic product manager for our platform initiative called Ethan. He actually used to work at Google, so he had a lot of people to talk to when we did the Google integration. And then our head of consumer products, Joy, she is really thinking holistically about how we can build a suite of products that serve different users' needs. And even just within the scope of parking, what are the different, parking is multifaceted. Some places you can reserve a spot ahead of time. Some places you can only park for 2 hours. There's lots of nuance. And so we're trying to figure out, how do we develop products that serve the most number of users in the most variety of situations. And so her and I are working together on that. As far as the web app goes, we started talking about that like earlier this year. I mean, we've always been talking about it, but we got it really prioritized earlier this year. We went through user story mapping sessions where we understood, hey, this is what the app does, and it was helpful because we already had the iOS and Android apps that we could use as a reference point. So we could say, okay, we know that users take this step, and we had some analytics in the apps that told us, users are more likely to do this versus that. And so we could build the web app intelligently. We kind of cheated, if you will, right? Because we had some of the answers going into it, and then the rest of it was all design and iteration. So we worked with a really brilliant designer named Liz, who conceived of this entire brand new flow from scratch. It looks totally different than the app. It functions totally different than the app. And we were trying to figure out, okay, the app, the design for the app is optimized for a native mobile app. How do we not copy that, but how do we actually truly make a new design for a new use case, which is, the users that are going to the website? They're probably Googling ParkMobile, or they're scanning a QR code on a sign or something like that. They're getting brought into this website. They don't know our brand. They're totally new. They've never heard of ParkMobile before. They don't know what a zone is. They don't understand why they need to put in their license plate. And so how do we really guide them through this kind of funneled experience that shows, it only asks them for the right information at the right time in the right order that they expect to provide it. And there's a ton of user research that we did on that as well. So even before we started designing, and while we were designing, even while we were building, we're continuing to iterate and do user research. I mean, I do up to 4 user interviews every week with my user research partner, Antonio. And it's so interesting. Every single person we talk to, we learn something new about either why they love our products or issues that they have with our products and how we can improve them. So, huge, more areas of opportunity than we ever would have time to do, right? But it's building that and understanding what are users really looking for. So early on we had, as an example, we had a question where it was like, well, do people want to kind of set up their account first? And then once they've set up their account, they can say, okay, this is where I'm parking and this is how long I want to park. And then, what's the order of steps versus do people want to say, here's where I'm parking, here's how long I want to park, here's my vehicle, so we had users go through a couple different kind of sample flows, excuse me. And we did kind of A, B, C, D, different variations of the flow to understand. And this was all non-dev. This was all just through user research, paper prototypes, surveys, things like that. Really, really low cost research. And we figured out, okay, the most logical flow is that people say, here's where I'm parking. Here's how long I'm going to be here. Either I'm going to be here for 2 hours or I'm going to be here until 3 o'clock, right? So either option. Here's the vehicle that I'm driving and here's how I want to pay for it. And so we realized that was the logical progression for, the vast majority of the users that we researched. And so that's how we decided what order to build our flow in, because you could theoretically have any of those steps in any order, right? But we needed to know what was the best option for the users. And that meant that we had to do a little bit of hacking with our API because we weren't building a new API. We were building on top of an existing API that's been around for a very long time. So we had to work some creative solutions out. But ultimately, the biggest responsibility to me is to the customer, to the user, right? Not the person who is responsible for the city's parking program. They're very important. They're our client. But to me, as a consumer product manager, it's focused on growth and retention and acquisition and things like that. To me, the user's journey and the user's experience is the most important part. And so I always try to keep that in mind.
What amount of people is enough for you to make a decision? I mean,
yeah,
it's never enough.
No, that's such a good question. That's such a good question. So I actually have a research background. So I worked in a laboratory for about 4.5 years through college, undergraduate and graduate. And that was a debate that we always went through is you have the concept of sample size, which is, how many people are part of your research study or survey, whatever. There's this constant debate of what is a large enough sample size? When do you have enough data to say, okay, we are finalizing our conclusion, we have sufficient data, within X number of standard deviations, and it was all very scientific. And when you're doing lab work, when you're measuring samples of things, I think it's easier to do that. It's a lot more quantifiable. When you're dealing with people, right, not molecules or bacteria or something that is non-intelligent. When you're dealing with people are very complicated. And the long answer to your question is there is no answer. Like, there's, I can't tell you it'd be like 500, 42, like 17,000. Like, I can't give you that number. There are lots of guiding principles about, like, based on the variation in the data, how much sample size you need. But at the end of the day, building software is all about trying to do the smallest possible thing as quickly as possible, getting it to market, testing it, right? And then building on top of that. So if you are a company like Google, you have access to millions of data points just like that, or Amazon or Facebook, right? We don't have that luxury. We have 3 million monthly active users, but that's 3 million data points, and all those people might not go down the same path. So the thing that we do, like the way that we like to think about it, is we start as small as possible, because the smaller that you start, the faster you can make a decision, right? So we say, okay, let's get 10 people, 50 people, 100 people, depending on how complex it is. If it's a 3-question survey, we can send that out to 500 people and get a 50% response rate in a week, right? And we'll incentivize it. Hey, if you answer this survey, you'll be entered in for a $100 gift card, right? People love free shit. Yes. People will do. It is amazing to me the amount of things people will do for a $25, $50, $100 Amazon gift card. So it's relatively cheap in that aspect, and we have a large user pool, so we can get really, really high response rate. So in that example, that's 250 responses, and we'll do those multiple times a week. We have a mechanism we call the daily pulse, which is just it's like an NPS survey that we send out every single day to, I think it's a random sampling of 1,000 users, people who have parked in the last 7 days, for example. So pretty recent, or it might even only be like last 2 or 3 days, but so very recent transactions. And we ask them, hey, would you, scale 1 to 10, would you recommend ParkMobile to a friend? Typical NPS question, but we'll also include some other questions in there. And those questions are always changing, and it'll go something like this. So I will be working on a design with our design team, for example, and we'll be saying, okay, do we want to show, what order do we want to show information in? Do we want to show the order of information as people's email address and their license plate? This is hypothetical. Or people's license plate and their email address? What order makes sense? And it's just a very simple question, right? And so I'll talk to our marketing team who owns the Daily Pulse, and I'll say, hey, we want to know, we've got 2 options, which way to present the data, which makes the most sense. And so probably less than 1 day turnaround time. Like if I ping them in the morning, we can probably get it in there for the next day. And then, so if I do this on a Monday, by Wednesday or Thursday at the latest, we have hundreds of responses telling us what's the right order to put these 2 pieces of information, right? So that's very cheap and very easy and very simple. So we do lots of little kind of experiments like that to understand how are people, and these are active users. These aren't a hypothetical, this isn't a random sampling of all users ever. And some people have never used the app in, a year or so. It's not a focus group. It's just a very simple, quick feedback mechanism. And so we ask a lot of questions that way. So for that, it's very easy to get data. So large sample size is best. Because in general, the more data you have, the more reliable your responses. If it's something that's a lot more complicated, for example, when we were going through and validating that user journey, right? So we kind of had the steps we knew people wanted: location, duration, vehicle, payment, checkout. But that was just kind of conceptual. So we built the designs, and then we had to go test those designs, and we had to make sure that, like, yes, this, even though users gave us this textual response, would they respond positively to the actual design themselves? And these are like high fidelity prototypes. So we would put these into InVision. We would go through a website like usertesting.com. But that's very expensive. I mean, you're talking for a single user test, you're talking probably over $100.
Whoa.
Very, very expensive. Just for one person's maybe 15, 20-minute clip of them using the prototype and giving feedback. So it's very, it's high fidelity. It's very rich data, but it's very expensive. So for something like that, we may only do 10. 5 to 10 is typically a good example, because if you go past that, then you're talking, many thousands of dollars, and that's really difficult to justify the budget for on a consistent basis. So those are things that we do when we're scoping a new product launch, or we are so for example, we've gone through a couple of different iterations on the design for the mobile app, thinking about how can we touch it up, how can we refine it. And so we don't do those very often, but because it's so expensive and laborsome, the designer has to create the designs, you have to upload them to a website, you have to set up the user testing, you have to execute it, you have to get the budget for it, you have to send out the gift cards afterwards, you have to then go and review the data, right? It's not just a little survey. You have to watch 10 or 20 different 20-minute long user interviews. That could take you a week if you're taking notes, right? So it's a very expensive, both from a time and cost perspective. So for those, 5 to 10 is really all you really need to get that validation of, do these designs make sense? Are people receiving them well? Because the other part of that is, you should be taking the learnings from that first round of user testing, going back and implementing the feedback into your design. Like, you shouldn't say like, this is our design, are we doing it yes or no? It should be, this is our design right now, but what do we need to change? How can we refine this more?
Mm-hmm.
So again, it should always be iterative, right? You start off with the first version, you test it, you get feedback, you iterate on the first version, you get a second version with the new feedback, you test it again. Okay, now we've pulled all the low-hanging fruit off the tree. What are the little knobs that we can turn to make this even better? And you should continue to do that, but also not spending so much time and money on it that you never get to development. So it's a balancing act always.
Can we jump into technology a little bit? Because this is very, very interesting. Because since person may be like parking into garage, as you said, or somewhere where there is no internet, like web apps these days are very heavy, maybe very heavy. So if you could share like some details, which technologies have you stopped on?
The web app that we built is built on React.
Uh-huh.
We feel that it is mature enough of a platform, there's enough support and adoption for it, that it's not going to be something where when you build something off of the newest, latest language, there's always the inherent risk that it could just die. Right? Like, there's companies all the time that'll just like have a pet project, and then they'll open source it, and then people start to adopt it. They go, you know what, we don't really like this, we're going to stop supporting it. And now you've built your product on something that isn't supported. Right?
Yes. I've been to this situation, and it's so funny because the decision was like made probably 7 years ago. By the time the technology was like one of the most popular, and after some period of time it was abandoned or get like little bit of attention from the developers, and the project is still there, and it's so hard to just change the technology, even find a developer who will be willing to work with this antiquated thing. It's so hard, like impossible.
And there's also the counter problem with extremely new technology, right? If there's a new language, it's very possible that you can't find someone that has that as part of their tech stack portfolio, right? So for example, Golang is pretty new relatively. We've built a lot of our new microservices on Golang, and it was really tough to like find developers. I was talking with our recruiter Laura, and she was like, I am scanning the internet, and it is difficult, especially because we're Atlanta based, right? And this is pre-COVID, so we're trying to all be co-located. So we're like, all right, who lives in Atlanta or is willing to move to Atlanta and knows Golang and wants to work for a parking app company, right? So there is a, again, it's always a balance between, you want to make sure that you adopt something that is mature and supported, but you don't want it to be so old that you're going to have to deprecate it soon after, right? You don't want to build something and then realize, oh wow, well, there's actually this new language, because database rewrites and replatforming and all those things are, it's something that we always want to do, and you just need to make the correct trade-offs to say, are we investing our time and our development time and resources effectively for the largest longevity for this? Nothing's going to last forever. That's one of the problems that I've seen in a lot of really big companies, is they have so much technology that they'll just keep patching it and patching it and patching it and patching it and patching it until it's like this horrible Frankenstein's monster of a monolithic service. And then, because no one ever wants to say, all right, now we're going to do the replatforming. I've been to two different replatformings before ParkMobile, at GE and at Sterling. And man, I don't wish that on anybody.
Well, I've been through it once, and it was nightmare, absolute nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, it worked. Like, it worked at the end of the day, but it's not the question of can you do it. It's the question of like, what is the most efficient way to do it. And I don't know if there is a good answer, right? Because there's the perfect architectural engineering solution that will take you 18 months to build, right? And especially for a lot of larger companies, that is typically, I think, where they gravitate towards, because somebody makes a really nice, compelling diagram and a great PowerPoint, a pitch, and they say, here's all the things we can do, and here's the cost savings, and whatever else, and they say, okay, go for it, right? And these are also companies that think in a very waterfall-like manner. So they're not. I mean, they're used to doing 18-month projects. Like, that's common for them. The thing that I've seen fail time and time again is the belief that what you know today, or what you think you know today, will inherently either be invalidated or change in some way in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 15 months, 18 months, right? So by the time you actually get to the final result, you either what you built doesn't actually meet the needs of the company, because the needs of the company have changed over that 18 months. And now you go, oh, well, we built the wrong thing. I guess we got to go do it again, right? Or if you go into there with that mindset, but then you're also like, well, we're gonna try to keep pivoting. We're gonna try to stay agile and all the things that big companies like to say. You will inherently change. You'll lose continuity of your system. And this is what happened. I won't say which time, but this is what happened at one of the replatformings, where we built one micro app and one microservice for one product. And then we moved on to the next micro app and microservice. And then we were building the second one, we realized, oh man, we should have done all these things in the other one. Okay, we need to go back and rebuild the first one so that it matches the second one. And then we went to the third one and we said, oh, no, we need to rebuild numbers 1 and 2 to match the third. So it's like you're constantly knowing what you don't know. And if you try to stick to this ideal, perfect, one-size-all solution, like, it conceptually makes sense and it's very romantic and ideal, or idyllic, but just in practice, I can say it if somebody has made it work, I have not been part of that, and I have never heard about it.
For me, it was a little different because the toughest part was it wasn't like an 18 months project. It was 6 months project. But after 6 months, we made it to moving clients to this new platform from the old one, and we realized how little did we implement from the previous, because there were many requests from clients, and they were implemented, and everyone just forget about them. So and people who were like managing those changes left the company, so there is no documentation. And what happened, like, it just worked for clients, and when we moved them to a new platform, they said like, hey, where this functionality we had and we loved? Sorry, probably you'll get it from in the like a month or so. And they like, no, get us back to the previous version.
I've had the exact same thing happen twice, like every single time, because it's, and that's the hard part about product management, especially in a B2B context where you have, your customers are fewer and they are more powerful, right? So you can have a CEO that says, I want features A, B, C, X, Y, Z. Otherwise, you lose my $20 million contract. And if that's, 30% of your annual revenue, you're like, I'll build whatever you want. I'll make you a grilled cheese sandwich. I'll do your laundry. Like, you need me to watch your kids? Like, just please don't leave.
Yeah.
But, and so for product management, we think about, there's the 80-20 rule, right? What's the 20% of the features that give 80% of the value? The thing is, that inherently is the correct way to think. But if you have that one stakeholder, that one customer that carries that really big $20 million, stick, it doesn't matter if you build 20% of his features that he wants or she wants. They also want the other 80%. And so like stakeholder management to me, I mean, I'm kind of a tech background. I have like a techie background, like an engineering background. So like, data makes sense to me, code makes sense to me, systems, software, they all kind of make sense. You can look at them fairly objectively. People are not that simple. And I think that's one of the hardest parts of product management is like understanding how to work with people, how to get everyone aligned to the same vision, right? And how to take my idea and turn it into our idea. And I think that is one of the most challenging parts of product management is just getting everyone to get along.
Would you share some tricks? How do you do it? I mean, that's toughest question probably for today.
But yeah. I mean, the things that I've learned, and again, these are not, big red warning disclaimer here. These will not work in every situation ever. But fundamentally listening to people, I think, is where it starts. You have to really actively and honestly listen. So a mistake that so all of these learnings have come from mistakes I've made, right? So a mistake that I made was, okay, let me go and send out an email to all of our main stakeholders and let me ask them, hey, what are your top 10 features? Okay. And they'll give me the top 10 features. And then I say, okay, well, I've got a dozen stakeholders and here's their top 10 features. So I can, right, analytically minded, I'm just like, all right, well, I'm going to assign a weighted score to each feature. Number 1 is the most, valuable. Number 10 is the least valuable. And then I'm going to add up all the points and then I'm going to use that to prioritize my roadmap, right? Wrong. Because what I didn't ask is I said, give me your top 10 most valuable features. I didn't say, give me the 10 features that you can't live without. So even though somebody responded that, adding, as is hypothetical, but adding a profile picture to an account was their, most valuable feature. However, they didn't put adding a phone number. And then when you build the product and they go, why can't I add my phone number? You say, well, you didn't tell me that was in your top 10. They're like, well, I need to add my phone number. You're an idiot. Why wouldn't you think of that? Why? Right? And now I'm the bad guy. So trying not to over-engineer the solution or potentially try to like come up with too kind of creative or crafty ways to like prioritize your roadmap, because you can build a roadmap, and your roadmap, you might share it with people and they go, oh, that's a great roadmap. Yeah, that's my number one feature. He's going to build that first. That's fantastic. But when you go and ship the product, it doesn't matter what your roadmap looked like. It matters if people use the product. And the only way to know if people are going to use the product is to try to get people to use the product. Like, I mean, it sounds very simple, but it's almost so common sense that you don't think about it, right? Like, how do you know if someone likes? Okay, perfect example is car dealerships. Why do they have people test drive the car? Because they know that if you test drive the car, you are significantly more likely to buy the car. If you just look at the car and you go, it's a good car, I guess I'll, shell out 10 grand, 15 grand, 20 grand for this new car. But I've never tested before. Like, am I going to like it? What are the chances I'm going to return it? It's the same with software, right? If you can get someone to test drive the software, they're more likely, you're more likely to realize what they don't like about it or what it's missing or what it needs. And B, they're more likely to eventually adopt it, right? So if you go through an 18-month build cycle and then you say, here's the software, you have introduced so much risk because you just wasted 18 months not having someone trying to use the software.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's really challenging with big B2B corporations because they say, no, I can't do anything until I have everything. And so you have to fundamentally challenge that. I mean, that was a mistake that I made in GE, is that was the answer I was given. They said, we need these 100 features, and I can't do a minute of my job on this platform, on this software, until I have every one of these 100 features. And being a naive and new product manager wanting to please everyone, I said, okay, great, we'll go build those 100 features. And then we built the 100 features and we realized there was another 100 featers that they wanted, and they weren't going to use a minute of the software until the 200 features were now built. Right. And it's, I mean, that's an exaggeration. It wasn't 200, but, yeah. but it's that level of, you have to get people bought into the product as early as possible. And I think the only truly effective way to do that is to build something, right? This is why minimum viable product is so important. But understanding that minimum viable product doesn't mean the crappiest possible implementation of those 100 features, right? Like, a lot of times people say, there's this really great diagram, it's like a triangle about like functionality, and it goes through these stages of functionality all the way up to like user enjoyment and delight, right? Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times what we do when we build an MVP, it's really an MSP. It's the minimum shitty product, right? it's the what is the most garbage way that we can build all of the requirements and meet all of the requirements. And so what you do is you build a product that meets all the requirements, but nobody wants to use it because it's crap, right? Instead, you should be focusing on, okay, what is the one requirement, the most important requirement or feature that I need to build that's consistent across my entire user base? And then how do I build that in such a way that it's functional, but it's also enjoyable, right? It makes people want to come back and use it. People start to say, man, if I don't have and the one really good way to figure out what features are the most important is tell someone you're gonna remove them.
Whoa.
Right? Yeah, that's great.
That's really yeah.
So don't ask people what the most important features are. tell them, like, again, tell them what are the, don't say what are the 10 most valuable features to you. Say, what are the 10 things that you will quit or you will fire me if I take them away from you, right? Because people are inherently emotional. And I think when I learned that I should stop treating people like computers and I should start treating people like emotional human beings that make emotional decisions, because they do. Even the smartest people in the world, we're still 90% emotion driven, right? It's that reptilian brain that makes most of our decisions. And then we validate those decisions, those gut instincts, we validate them with logic, or we back them up or explain them with logic. But we didn't actually use logic to make the decision. It was an emotional decision, and then we kind of justified it. So when you can realize that people make emotional decisions, and that you understand that one of the biggest things you can do as a product manager to reduce risk of any product is to understand, okay, which of my key stakeholders are the most emotional? Because I need to keep them very close, right? I need to make sure that the most emotional stakeholders and the ones that have the most power are my best friends, right? It's like, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. They're not enemies, but it's like, keep your friends close, keep your emotional key stakeholders closer. Which doesn't have the same ring to it. But so understanding who are the people that could shutter your project. They could just totally pull the plug on your product, because there's tons of products that companies will spend 5, 10, 30, 50 million dollars. They'll build it and they'll build it and they'll build it. And eventually someone's going to go, you know what? Yeah, we're going to take a loss on this one. So understand who can say that, because that needs to be your best friend. Because you need to make sure that their concerns are always going to be not met. Not that you're going to do everything they say, but that they are an active part of the creation of the product, right? It's not my product. It's our product, right? And I'm going to say that probably a few more times in the podcast, but like, that's the biggest thing you can do is say, take the ego out of product management. My buddy Ethan talks about this all the time. He's like, the biggest thing that we can do as product managers is not force our ideas upon the company, the developers, the designers, the consumers, right? Don't try to impose your opinion or your idea or your vision upon them. Try to figure out how you can take something that starts off in my head, and how can I work with everybody else that's involved to make it something that we are doing collectively, that everyone has emotional buy-in, everyone understands where we're going and why, everyone wants us to succeed. If you're building products and there's people who think that your product is stupid, it's not going to work, it's a waste of money. And if those people are in powerful positions in your company or in your client base, like, that is a disaster. Like, you need to fix that as soon as possible. Otherwise, it's not if it's going to be a problem, it's when and how big of a problem is it going to be,
So the later it becomes a problem, the bigger problem it becomes, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's actually what I wanted to ask. It's about inside, internally, product management. When how to make everything effective, how to make the team work effective, so that everyone is happy. Yes, the stakeholders, the developers, the product managers, designers, everyone is happy inside the team. So it's like the product manager's responsibility.
I think the product, if everyone is happy, the product manager has to suffer.
I mean happy.
That sounds about right.
Everyone is on the same page. Okay, everyone is on the same page in terms of values, deliverables, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
I mean, communication is huge, right? Like, you have to be able to clearly communicate what it is you're building and why you're building it. Mm-hmm. If you can't do that, you need to go start back at step 1, right? Like, product management is a lot of homework. And one of the things that we forget to do is we spend all this time, we do market research, we do competitive analysis, we do forecasting, projecting, user research, business stakeholder engagement, all these things. And we do so much of a work and we don't write any of it down. Right? You could be the best product manager in the world, but if you can't effectively show your work, even if you're doing the work and you're doing it right, but you're not showing the work and you're not communicating that you've done the work, people are not going to trust you. Like a mistake that I made early on is I was like, well, you hired me for this job. Why don't you trust me to just do my job? Like, why do I have to keep proving to you that I'm doing my job? Like, just let me build the product. Like, you hired me. I went through you looked at my resume. We talked. I did the interviews. Like, you said, these are the things you're going to do. Just let me do my job. And I think product management is unique in different from like a lot of engineering, where you don't have, like, you're a sole contributor in most cases. You don't really have any direct reports, but you're not producing anything, right? Unless you are on a very small team where, like, you're kind of a hybrid developer product owner, something like that, which can be done. But if you're in a pure product management role, we're not creating anything. We're not writing code. We might create some designs, like on smaller teams where there isn't a designer or design resources are limited. We might make some designs. But again, people aren't going to use the designs. The designs are just a medium. They're a way to communicate ideas to a development team to then execute, right? Mm-hmm. So for product management, people can't judge your efficacy by you saying that you're doing things. You have to inherently show them, this is all the work I did. This is the market analysis. This is our opportunity based, and here's my spreadsheet that I use to calculate our market opportunity. Here's a couple of interviews from clients that say that they would pay a premium for this product. Here is my competitive analysis. Here's all the other competitors that we have, and here's how I think we have a niche. And you have to be able to clearly and effectively communicate that. And I think another mistake is it's not just about communicating that up. It's not just about getting your executive team to say, yeah, okay, we believe in this product. Let's go build it, right? We're going to fund it. We're going to invest $10 million to build this product. It's not about just that. I mean, that's super important, because without that, you're not going to get the budget and you're not going to build the product. But I would say as important, like no less important, is communicating all of that information down. Because ultimately, if you just want a development team that you hand user stories to and they write code and then you ship product and that's it, like that's the end of the day, like you can do that, but you're not going to make the best product possible. You're going to introduce bugs. You're going to create usability issues. You're going to end up building something that isn't actually what people need. And you probably aren't going to do it any faster either, because people are going to say, oh, well, we've got this new contract, but I'm on my coffee break. I'll take care of it later.
Your developers have to know your business goals, because this way they will be able to contribute and to achieve those goals faster. And if they just read the user stories and just code, they do what they have to do, but they don't think in terms of like bigger picture, and they cannot like be as effective as they could be.
Mm-hmm. And the worst thing that I've personally experienced is when you have a very combative culture between your engineering team and your product team. Mm-hmm. You will never build good products if you can't get along, right? Like if you I'm not going to say something. But fundamentally, right? If your engineering team isn't in lockstep with your product vision, if they don't believe in it, either because you didn't ask them what they thought, or you asked them what they thought and you didn't like their answer and you told them to shut up, or they've gotten burned in the past. Like, people have baggage, people have scars. You have to, like, again, people are emotional human beings, and every person is going to react differently, and everyone has their own set of experiences. And you have to understand what those experiences are, and you have to be able to be empathetic and work with that every single person. Like, you can't treat any one developer the same as another. They're people. You have to treat them like people, right? They're gonna have their own communication styles. They're gonna have their own wants and desires, and it may not always align with yours. But at the end of the day, you have to come to a consensus and a conclusion and say, hey, we are building this together. And if you can't do that, like, I fundamentally believe that you will never build the best product that you can, right? Mm-hmm. But if you have everyone involved, and they may not all agree that what you're doing is perfect, like, everyone's going to have opinions, right? And so it's not about making everyone happy. That was a mistake I made early on, is decision making through committee, mm-hmm. right? Like, you have a team of 10 developers, right? Or, like, 8 developers, a scrum master, and a product owner, me. And I'm like, all right, so we got this feedback from the sprint review. The client really wants us to change this menu. How does everyone feel about that? And if you go and you spend the time on every decision to go, so-and-so, Jim, how do you feel about that? Sally, how do you feel about that? Karen, like, all these people, like, how do you feel about that? You're fundamentally just wasting time, because they might not care at the end of the day, right? And so making sure that the development team understands when they have a question or concern, their voice is valid. It has value to you as the product manager, and you will always listen to them, and you will make time to listen to them. I think that is extremely, extremely important. But the last thing I'll say on that is I'm very fortunate right now, and I've never experienced the current team that I'm on that has built the web app, and we're enhancing the web app right now. I'm very fortunate for a few reasons. One, they've been at the company longer than I have in most cases. So they're a very mature team in the sense that they understand kind of how the business works. And they're also a very critical team, not critical in a pejorative sense, like, they tell me that I suck. Like, that's not fun. They're very supportive, but they're critical in the sense that they think deeply and they think critically about the product, about how a user is going to interact with it, if it makes sense. I mean, there have been so many times where we will be mid-sprint working on a user story, and I'll get a Slack from somebody and they go, hey, shoot me the Jira ID. Okay. This is a story about adding a payment method, right? How are you going to pay for your parking? And we support Apple Pay right now, and we're going to support Google Pay and PayPal in the future. So you can have a credit card or you can use Apple Pay, right? And so they'll send me a question about, hey, I looked at the design and I'm building it out, and it just feels wrong. Something just doesn't feel right about it. It doesn't seem intuitive to the user. I say, okay, let's talk through it. So they'll make a PR, send me a link, and we'll go through it. And I'll be like, yeah, you know what? Something does feel a little strange about this, right? But we didn't catch it in the user testing, right? User testing, all the users got through it just fine. But now that we're building it, there's a level of continuity that you lose when you're just doing like even a high fidelity prototype, right? Between the prototype and the live code, there's so many intangibles about how it works. Like, animations are a great example, right? Like, most of the time you won't spend a lot of time to really dial in your animations in your prototype. You'd be like, okay, well, this is a swipe gesture, this is a scroll, this is a tap, and it's close enough, right? But then when you put that in code, and you get it into your hand. And like I test all of my user stories on a mobile phone because I know that 99% of my users are going to be on a mobile phone. Is it easier on my desktop? Yeah, for sure. I hate getting on my VPN on my mobile phone, but like it's a completely different experience, typing and moving a mouse versus doing this or whatever. So my developers think that same way that I do, and they will take a little bit longer than it might necessarily need. They could probably make the user story, they could churn out the code faster and not ask questions. But again, by the time that we actually ship the code, or it gets to my hands and I go, wow, this doesn't really feel good. Now I have to kick it back to them. We've wasted time. We can't ship in that, we can't ship that release, that sprint. So building a culture, building a rapport and a relationship with your development teams where they're thinking critically about the product as they're building it, and they feel comfortable reaching out to you when they have concerns and like working through it. And sometimes you might have to be like, hey, we really, how long is it going to take you to make that fix? 3 days? Can we just ship this and like see how it is? Like, can we feature flag it, or maybe do an A/B test or something on it live to like validate it? But like, you just don't have time to go back and rewrite the whole user story. So sometimes you have to say that, right? I don't like saying that, but sometimes you have to. And at that point, it like, Amazon has this principle called disagree and commit, which I think is extremely powerful. And it's a conversation that I've had with my developers. I'm like, guys, I love you. I trust you. I know that that we want to make the best product possible. Sometimes we can't do the right or the best thing. We've just got to do something. And I really need you to support me when I say, all right, I've taken all the feedback. This is the decision. I need you to support me in saying, you know what? I disagree with you, Toby, but I'm going to commit to do that. Right. And also making sure that I am giving as much as I'm taking. Right. So there's this concept of like emotional debt in software development, where every time that you have to make kind of a bad software decision, a bad product decision, and it's same for engineering. Sometimes they have to like hack a solution together that really isn't the right way to do it. And they don't want to do it, but they're like, man, we just got to get this done fast. So every time you do that, you like accumulate this emotional debt. And so you have to pay that off at some point, right? It's like a credit card. It's just like technical debt, right? It's like a credit card. Your balance gets so high, and then eventually the interest that you're paying on it is insane, or you go bankrupt, right? And nobody wants to go emotionally bankrupt. So you have to take the time to say, all right, you know what? And that's what we did this year. Like, I really wanted us to start focusing on, we actually finished all of our engineering deliverables, like our product deliverables for the web app this year, about 2 weeks ago, before December. And I was like, oh man, great. Okay, this is going to give us a fantastic opportunity. We can start on January's work in December and get a whole month. And they were like, we got to give you the bad news, Toby. We're exhausted. We have been running at this thing full speed all year. We've had to make numerous shortcuts with our architecture and our code. And A, we need a breather. And B, we just need some time to like go fix our shit. Like go clean up our mess. And I was like, okay, but like, what if we just like get in a couple users? And they're like, dude. And I was like, okay, all right. I hear you. I see you. I understand. That's totally fine. Happy holidays. Like go have fun. I'll see you all in January. And like, that was important. And that was like a really difficult moment for me, because I was like, man, we can de-risk this next product. We can get a jump on our roadmap. But at the same time, if you wear out your team and you treat them like crap, and you treat them like they're just, they're just taking things and putting them together and then making something else. Like, this isn't an assembly line. We're not making cars here, right? Software is extremely complex. It's emotionally and intellectually exhausting to do it for long periods of time. And you need to be able to have compromise, and you need to be able to work with your developers. And I hope that by listening to them and letting them do the things they say they need to do and giving them that respect, that they will give me in turn that same respect back next year when I'm like, all right, this is the next thing.
But it also will pay off later because of they fix their mess. It will pay off in a long run.
Yeah, I may not be able to see or measure the technical debt, but I have to trust my team that they're not lying to me. Like, why would they lie to me? Like, you know, these are smart guys. They have worked really hard. They've never given me a reason to not believe them. So when they say, hey, like the credit card bill is getting really, really high, we need to go pay it off. We can't go buy a new car. Like, we need to just like pay that bill off, right? Being able to trust them and knowing inherently, again, another mistake that a lot of product managers make is we just say, oh, well, okay, let's just build it this way and ship it and we'll fix it later. And then we never go back and fix it, right? So if you're going to say, we're going to build it and ship it, and we know that it's not perfect, we know that it's not what we want, but we're going to go back and ship it, you better freaking go back and fix it. You better do that, because every time that you don't do that, A, your product sucks, and you have a product with your name on it out in the market that sucks. Nobody wants that. And B, you just, for lack of a better term, you just took a giant dump on your developers. Like, like, you know, they told you what they needed and you said, nah, that's not important. That's not valuable to me. Right? And that's just not cool. Like, that's not being a decent human being. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you work for a big tech company or a small tech company or a private firm or contract or whatever. Like, people are people, and people deserve to be treated with respect. And if you can't do that, like, I don't know, go into government or something. Like, go do something. I don't want to work with you. You know, nobody wants to work with you if you're going to be like that.
So summing up, like top three skills for product manager, I think that maybe product managers who just start their career will listen to this podcast, and it will be interesting for them to know from experienced product managers. Just name top three skills that you recommend and traits that you recommend to develop and to work on.
Yeah, that's great. Where's my cheat sheet?
No. Put it the other way. Three skills that if are removed from the product manager.
Remove.
Yes, that's perfect. That's good. That's good.
Retain and remove.
Yeah. So so the three things that I think that without these skills you cannot be a good product manager. Going back to my first point, like truly, genuinely, deeply listening to people. And that's such a generic, like flowery answer, but it's really true, right? You need to be able to sit down with someone, whether they're a developer, a customer, a client, a business stakeholder, another product manager, whoever it is. You need to be able to sit down with them. And if they have grievances, if they have ideas, if they have dreams, like, dream with them, right? Don't, product managers, we have to say no a lot, but you can also say, that's a fantastic idea. I really appreciate that feedback. I don't know when I'm going to be able to build that, but I'm going to go add it to my backlog. I'm going to write it down so I don't forget it. And I hope that I can build that someday soon. Right. And you didn't have to give them a commitment. You didn't have to give them a date. You didn't have to, but you validated their idea, and you didn't do it like, oh man, that's a great idea. Good job. Like, again, don't be an asshole, right? Don't be a jerk. But you validated their opinion, their idea, or their complaint, and you acknowledged it, and you said, you know what? We're going to try to work that in, and then genuinely do try to. It doesn't mean you have to the next sprint or the next quarter, the next year, right? You may not be able to, you may never get to it, but you should at least be genuine about trying. So listening and trying. I would say that's the one thing that you cannot be a good product manager without. The second thing is the ability to compromise. And I touched on that earlier with the kind of technical debt example, but you have to be able to compromise with, again, not just the developers, the customer, the client, the key stakeholder, the other product management team, right? You have to be able to say, okay, I have all these ideas and all these things I want to build and all these great products, and I've done all this work. And at some point, something is going to happen and you're not going to be able to achieve everything you want to do. But there's probably a good reason why that is. And so understanding what that reason is and compromising with that other individual or individuals or group or whatever it is, compromising with them and saying, okay, I hear you, I understand that we can't do my thing right now because of X, Y, Z. But I will support you in doing this other thing that we need to do, right? Because in turn, the hope, and from experience, I can say this is mostly accurate, they will likely show you that same respect. The third thing that I would say that we didn't really touch on, and it's less on execution. I feel like we talked a lot about execution, and we didn't talk a lot about the ability to dream and be curious. And this might be partially biased just based on my experience, but if you had asked me 10 years ago when I was doing my master's degree, if you had said, hey, do you ever think that you'll be a product manager in a parking app? I would have been like, no, what is that word? What is product manager? Did you make that up? Like, I had no idea what that was. I didn't know it existed, right? You can't go to school for a product management undergrad. Like, it doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. You can do, there are some product management kind of master's degrees that are becoming more popular, more common. And you could get like an MBA with a marketing focus or something like that. But like, really, the fundamental skills of product management, I don't believe can be taught. I think that you have to be curious. You have to think, okay, could be whatever it is, right? This is a product. What do I like about it? What do I not like about it? What does it do for me? What do I wish it could do for me? In a lot of product management interviews, is a very common question that you'll hear is, what's your favorite product? Oh, Google Maps. Okay. What's the one thing that you would change about Google Maps and why? Right? Because that shows your ability to analytically think about the benefits and the detriments of a product, which you have to do with your own products, right? You can't just go around judging everyone else's products. You have to look in the mirror. But they'll ask you that because they want to know that you have the ability to analytically pick something apart and then creatively expand on it and build on it, right? And I think that's the reasons why I love product management, and it's my favorite job I've ever done, and I never want to do anything else, is because it balances to me that the analytical part that craves data and analysis and all of the things that an engineering kind of technical brain wants. But it also gives me the chance to say, okay, how can we make the world a better place? That's a very existential question, right? But like, my fundamental purpose in life is to, by the time I die, I want to have generated the most positive environmental or societal impact possible. And there's no number to that, right? But it's just the desire to constantly be striving to do and create things that are better, that help people and that help the planet, right? And that drives me. So it's like the pursuit of positive impact in whatever way that may manifest and take form. and then the ability to dream about that and not just think 1 or 2 or 3 steps ahead or 3 years ahead or quarters or whatever, but think about, why is like Tesla like one of the most successful companies in the world right now? Is because like it's driven by a leader who can dream, and he can bring people into his dream, and you can critique the merits of that dream or the feasibility of that dream or whatever, but like you can't critique his ability to sell a dream, and not sell in like it is in the financial sense, but to really get people bought into this view of a better future. Mm-hmm. Right. And ultimately, I think product managers have to have that. You have to think, how can I constantly make things better? How can I pick up new skills, learn new things, explore new industries, diversify myself as much as possible, so that when I have that one great idea, that I have the idea, I acknowledge the idea, and then I immediately start thinking about how I can execute that idea. Right? Like, to sum it up, it's like entrepreneurial spirit, mm-hmm. which is a very, I almost hate that phrase because everyone says it. They're like, oh, we really want a product manager with an entrepreneurial spirit. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, if you want me to go start a company, why are you hiring me? But it's that idea of how can we constantly strive for a better, more perfect world, mm-hmm. And we do that through the lens of products.
Thank you.
Well, okay, yeah. Thanks for the great discussion, and hope to talk to you in the next episode about the dreaming part.
Yeah, I would love to. That's probably like that's the part that I am actually the most passionate about. It's hard to say experience about it, because it's like, you could argue that like you've been a dreamer your whole life, right? So like it becomes more abstract. You can't really put it like a box around it. But yeah, I think there's like 2 big parts of product management. One is the ability to think and create and ideate, and then the other is the ability to execute. And I think without both of them, you can't truly do the full job.
Exactly. Okay. Well, enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy Cyberpunk. Thank you.
Yeah, you too, man. Thank you both so much. It was
Thank you. Bye.